So I want a bit more with our forms. I actually want so that when things are completed and valid, when things are actually ready to submit, I want a green line. I also want to kind of put in information up front right away, explaining that you need to put in a name here, you need to put in a last name here, right? So we're going to add a bit of more information, a green border if everything is good, red border if everything is bad. So we're just going to create another function here just called isValid. And there are other ways to do this, and you can go and do that instead, but I'm just going to do it this way. So I'm going to say if it's valid, if it's not invalid, but I actually changed something, right? Because up front, when I just show the system right here, it shouldn't show anything except just put in your first name here, put in your last name here, and as soon as I make a change, it starts explaining if you didn't put in the right thing. That's just, I think it's normal UI that you start out by not yelling at the customer, putting in red stuff, say, you need to put a name in, you need to put a last name in, but it's up to you how you want to do it. So I need this valid right here because I want the green border when everything is touched and it's not invalid anymore. So jumping back to the HTML code right here, we're going to make another thing inside the class right here. Notice right now the class is actually an object, and right now it only has the isInvalid property right here, but I can do a comma just like with any class, and I can add another property right here and say, again, that this is from Bootstrap. I can say isValid. I want that class to be shown if the application is actually valid. And again, I want the control name of first name right here, first name like this. There we go. Now it should actually show this if it's valid and this class if it's not valid. So let's try and have a look at how it works now. So right now nothing is touched, so it seems like this. And let's just try and put in the first character and the second character, and now it's green, right? I remove these guys again, and now it's red. So when the customer meets this the first time, it's blank, it's white. Let's try and actually, using Bootstrap, put in some information right away, just saying you need to put in your first name right here, just as gray text, just as information. Let's try and jump all the way to the form controls. Notice here it's actually available. When you look at this, until I click it, there's kind of an information piece here. It's not something that I've written, but it's kind of information about what you should put in here. So here we're going to figure out how they did that, and that's very easy using what we call the placeholder. So let's try and add a placeholder to our component as the final thing. So going back to my input field, and I'm going to add a placeholder here. I'm going to put in first name. Let's just put in an actual example here. We can say let's put in first name colon last, something like this. I know this might look like a bad thing, but here you can see there's an example, right? I can also instead say your first name here, something like this. I don't know how we would put it, but that's kind of right. It's just a placeholder for you to put in information, and as soon as I start typing something, it'll go away. So we'll say first name here, and I can go and do the same for the last name down here, your last name. And actually, again, you shouldn't say first name, last name. You should say a surname or something like that. That's up to you to figure that out. That's actually the customer who will yell at you if you put this in the wrong way. So let me just multiline the last name as well and put that in here as the last thing. Your last name here. There we go. Let's see how this looks now. So now we have the first name up here and no warnings until I start typing. Oh, you need 2 characters. Okay, Lars. Okay, there we go. That's cool. I'll put in Johnson. No validation here for now. We'll put that later. Let's just, no, I decided I don't want that. And now it starts warning me again, and now it puts in the real warnings, and it won't be blank anymore, right? And then you can, of course, remove this touched, and you remove the code here if you don't want this to, if you want the warnings to show all the time, just remove this, right? That's all that makes it so that it doesn't show it all the time. And you can go do that yourself. Now you know a lot more about validation, and I think that's all we need to kind of get into for now. We can play more with this, but I think you have a pretty cool UI to work with. So see you in the next lesson where we'll have even more fun.